up a little bit with some of those questions and we'll go.
You got it. And we are live. Welcome. This is Pat Roque, career and leadership strategist, and my dear friend Jordan, who is a sports marketing, content, and engagement genius and a good friend. And we were just telling the funny story, short story of the US Open and getting stuck in a hurricane. So we talk about resilience a lot in our career journey. Can you give the super short version of why it pays to have connections and friends and think on your feet?
Yeah, especially in related to that story that I just told you about the US Open. So yeah, I was stuck at the US Open on Wednesday when the hurricane hit the Northeast. And lucky for me, I was there with friends in the sports industry who were very well connected there. We're connected with the US Open. And as those problems arose and we were trying to figure out how are we going to get out of here? How are we going to get home? Who's going to get us across the river from New York to New Jersey? Because of those connections and the people I was with, we were able to, weather the storm and make it home okay. Albeit at 5:30 in the morning is when we finally walked in the door. But, it's great to be a fan and to go enjoy those sporting events, but I don't know what I would have done there had I not been, with these people that I know in the sports industry that were able to, kind of rally together and help out in that time of need. So just one small real life example that's very topical right now of, how those connections can help you out.
I love it. I think that real life is cool because you're so buttoned up and polished and put together. And some days I am too. And then people think, oh, they've got it all going on. And then you think, no, we're real people too. And all kinds of crazy stuff happens. The stuff you can't even make up. So I appreciate your sharing that, Jordan. And when we talk about resilience and being okay with change, we were talking about seasons in sports, and you actually brought up the conversation around really thinking back about even the seasons of this year and the seasons of our careers and how change is sometimes, maybe even often lately, unexpected, but there are blessings to be had through it. So do me a favor, take me back to telling our audience a little bit about who you are, your kind of zone of genius, and what happened at the beginning of the year that caused us to meet.
Yeah, so I work currently for Major League Soccer. I work in content distribution and business development. So essentially working with, our teams to make sure that we were monetizing all the assets that we have as a league. So footage, IP, image and likeness, logos and things like that to drive the business of the league, but also working with our digital partners to help them tell stories around Major League Soccer to their audiences across their channels. And also working with those partners as they work on the commercial side with our corporate partners to not only drive revenue, but to additionally get more people to tell those stories around Major League Soccer. So I came up, my background is in content, a content director, video production, and that's what brought me to the league. And actually at Major League Soccer, when I started, I was just working on that sponsorship side. So my job was to figure out how do we monetize our sponsorships through our digital content. And I did that for about 5.5 years, and I grew that team and I loved it. And we were really on a great course with that strategy and what we were doing. But then lo and behold, COVID hits, right? And the whole world gets changed. And in the sports industry, people forget that we are an events-based industry. And to have events, you have to have people going to those events. And that's what generates a lot of the buzz, a lot of the revenue, a lot of the engagement that we get from people. So now as a sports league, you're trying to figure out, we're not playing games. We don't have players out in the news every day. What do we do to keep ourselves going? So we just immediately had to make one of those changes that you're talking about and figure out how do we take everything that we've been doing live, now do it digitally and keep people engaged. And how do we keep people engaged when the thing that they want most are games and we don't have that to offer them? So that was a process for us to go through, right? And we went through that process. We were able to launch a season. We were able to play in a bubble just like the other leagues did and get our season going. We had a successful regular season. And right as we were getting into our playoffs, which were delayed until November, our organization went through a complete reorg. And at that point, I lost my team. I actually lost my role. They completely eliminated what I did for the business, and they moved me to a new part of the business, which is what I'm doing now, working with those content partnerships. So luckily, some of those skills that I developed and had been working on for the past 5 years, working with sponsors and those partnerships, were very transferable to now. Instead of working heavily with corporate partners, I'm now working with content and production and distribution partners, right? So having those transferable skills, I think, is the thing that really helps save me and keep me on. But as that's happening, I'm also going through the process of mourning all my friends that we lost. We had many people, including a lot from my team who were let go. And you kind of go through this moment where you're happy for yourself. You're incredibly just heartbroken for them. And I'll say that the hardest thing was what kept me at Major League Soccer, and what I loved about it was the people I worked with. So when they were gone, you start rethinking everything and trying to figure out, now I'm still here, but how do I survive? And as I was
so I'm gonna stop you for just a second, because I want the audience to track here, because when everyone else is going through this, we always think it's just me, right? As humans by nature. So going through COVID, you live in North Jersey, so you're in one of the big hubs of hustle and bustle, as well as COVID, right? And so the world is changing. You've got kids that are school age.
Yeah.
That were in school, yanked out of school, working, doing school from home. So now you're super dad, super mom, trying to juggle all the things. Your industry is literally put on hold in turmoil because you can't physically put fans in seats in the stadiums. We figure out COVID and they're playing in a bubble. And in the middle of it, so you're losing real people and family and community because of the disease and the pandemic. And you're now watching your team start to suffer and be changed and shifted, and maybe feeling a little bit like the rug's pulled out from under you, if that's fair to say.
Oh,
so you start the year thinking, what exactly? Where do you now? Happy New Year. It's 2021. 2020's over. Yay. And then what happens?
Well, then you realize that 2020 really isn't over. Yeah, the calendar flipped, but these things that we're dealing with are still there. So my thinking was, I mentioned that this all happened at the start of our playoffs. So then we have to get through playoffs and get through our championship MLS Cup in December. So there's really no time to think about what had just happened. So that really didn't come until January, where I could sit back and say, all right, what happened the last 2 months and where am I going to go? And during this time when my friends were let go, when we had this reorg, I was helping them as much as I could. Who can I connect you with? Who can I help you talk to? Is there anything I can do for you, my friend who now doesn't have a job? Because I know how great you are. Help me know who I can talk to. And as I went through that process with them and watched them try to find jobs, my thought process was, what if that would have been me? Am I in a position in my career and with what I'm doing where if I had been let go in November, would I be able to quickly rally my troops and figure out who I can talk to and what I can do to, get a job so that I can support myself and my family? And sadly, the answer for me was no, Jordan, you're not in a good position. You are not in a place. I have some savings, so financially we'd be okay for a little bit, but professionally, I was not in a good spot. And I said, okay, so why is that? And I realized that one was I really hadn't networked the way that I probably should have, and seen the value in growing that network so that when something bad happens, there are people you can lean on who want to help you. And I really hadn't positioned myself well, I don't think, internally at my company to say, this is why I'm valuable and this is why I should grow and continue to continue to progress here. Now, obviously, they've seen some value and they've kept me, but now in this new role, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, I don't know what this role is going to be. This is scary. Some of these things I don't think I'm going to like. I don't know if I'm going to do well. Have I really done a good job of showing who I am to my company so that they'll continue putting me in good places to succeed? So that was my thought process at the beginning of the year. And eventually I got to a point where I said, I need some help. I need someone who can help give a little structure to what my path should be for the next, 6 months to a year, to make sure that I don't have to say no to those questions anymore. Like I say, yeah, I am ready. And that's, a friend put me in touch with you, Pat. And for the past 6 months, that's what we've been working on together, is how do I better position myself? So if that does happen, when it happens, it most definitely could, I'm in a position where I'm going to be okay.
And it's funny because there's a lot of people, there's nothing wrong with loving your job. You love your job. You love your company, you love your industry, and you love your colleagues. And so people out there in the seats listening to this is not a matter of his life and career were broken, just the opposite. It's that many of us find that great role. We're in what we think is our zone. And then when all the storm comes, just like the hurricane that blew through here this week, and we have to stop and realize what happens if ... Success and comfort in your role is a beautiful thing. And yet the inertia, the lack of really taking inventory of yourself, the lack of building what we call a personal brand, could be the thing that sinks the ship. Now, you were grateful and lucky that you were able to keep your job. And I say lucky because I think it's talent and skill and all the things, but there's still some luck also, it's a blessing, right? Let's say that. And so the need to stop and to take inventory of who you are and what really matters, right? I call it the career GPS, what you're good at, what you like to do, and what's important to you and your family now. Then the confidence of what are my skills and the things I do, and what else can or should I be doing? And then how do we communicate that value and leverage our connection? So you came in rock star to begin with, but started to really pay attention and talk out loud, I think, about a lot of new skills, because all of a sudden you had all this new stuff thrust upon you. So take me through that. Well, what did that feel like when it landed in your lap and you were now suddenly not the Jordan you were the week before?
Yeah. So yeah, when that job transition happened, I just kind of had to say, okay, how do I handle this right now in just getting my feet under me and starting to stand up and figure out what I do in this role, right? And I think you and I had a lot of conversations about transferable skills and about how you were like, look, Jordan, these are all the things that you've done. You know, I worked with sponsors, I worked with our content teams, I worked heavily in those partnerships, and I was just able to transition that into what I was now doing. It just wasn't sponsors I was working with, right? It was digital partners and content partners. So that was a lot of the good conversation you and I had, where I was able to see, look, I am good at these things. I'm now doing them in a different arena. You know, it's almost like an athlete, a dual sport athlete. You know, it's like, I'm fast. I can be fast in football and I can be fast in baseball. I just use that speed in different ways for the different sports. So I think that's kind of what I was able to do, was figure out how the things I was good at, how could I now transfer them to this new role that I had. And you used the word like scary. It was incredibly scary, because as I got plopped into it, I kind of looked at it and I said, I think there's 2 things here that I'm going to be really good at. And there's 5 or 6 that I just have no idea how I'm going to approach these. Luckily, the new boss that I was given, she's fantastic. And she helped bring me along really quickly and opened kind of her brain to me and said, this is what I know. And let's set you up. She gave me a lot of opportunities to try new things in very small risk environments that then have helped me build now to where I'm doing things in more high risk environments and being more of a right hand to her. But all those things came together. And as I grew and progressed, I started to see there's actually a lot more with this new role that I'm good at and that I can do, and I can really add a lot of value to. And I guess looking back, that's what MLS saw when they kept me on, and they realized that I could do those things maybe before I even did. And so now, fast forward 6-8 months, and I'm much more comfortable and confident in what I'm doing, because I kind of had that aha moment where I said, actually, I might be a little better and more talented at what I thought than what I thought I was. And I may actually be able to play in a few more courts than what I've been playing in before. And then that has helped set me up to answer that question I said before of, have I put myself in a position to progress in my own company? And I think that it has. It just it took me a while to get to that point. Well,
that's the confidence piece, right? The seeing it, believing it, and actually the perspective from other people. Because one of the things now, we're in a mastermind together. You've watched and interacted with all these other folks. And isn't it interesting how sometimes there's such humble pie out there? People don't realize how good we are at certain things because it's almost natural, like breathing. It literally is the things that you're good at. And people are like, Jordan, thank you so much. That was so awesome. That was incredible. And you're just doing you. You're just showing up and authentically doing the things that you know to be true and getting a little better, one step better every day. But the perspective of other people, blessed you because they put a vote of confidence to help you. We did a little bit of work on that to get you kind of more comfortable and learning how to explore and learning how to not be afraid to outreach and letting more people help you. And at the same time, watching you become a better team leader yourself, because you can grow a team, you can lead a team, you can grow a team, you can bootstrap a team. Kind of, you're now really a utility player from that perspective as well. Because I think, right, what are the things you're doing now different from January 2020? So let's talk about what are a couple of the skills that you've seen, whether they're technical skills or transferable skills. What are a couple of those skills that now you can speak to? Before you were kind of just doing them, but never giving yourself credit.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is on the business development side. I'm very heavily now involved in, like negotiations and figuring out, how are we going to price things? What's the give and take going to be for each side? And that was always something that before was done. And then it came to me and I was just on the execution side. So now I know how to execute, but I also kind of know how to put all those dominoes in place from the beginning to get everything to fall the right way. So I think for me, that's the biggest one. You talk about zones of genius. When it comes to my career, I love working in that place where sport and business intersect. And you could say, oh, sports is a business, and that's the whole thing. But when you work in the sports industry, you realize that there are some people that just work on the sports side, the competition, what you see on TV. And there are some people who are so worried about the business side that they, like in my business, for example, they barely even know what's going on the weekends with the soccer games because they're just worried about those businesses and bottom lines. And I'm right in the middle, where I'm right in that spot where the sport and the business collide. And so over the past 6 months, the muscle I've been able to grow and flex a little bit is that business development side. And it was obviously in me because I was kind of doing it, but I wasn't doing it in mass and I wasn't doing it regularly like I am now. And so now I realize that is a new thing that I can, bring to the table and talk to people about in the conversations that I'm having. We started this conversation talking about, the US Open, and I was with all these people in the sports industry. A lot of the conversations I had with them was related to that side of the business. So in the last 6 months kind of put me in a good place to be in a position where I could actually speak well and informed about the things that they were also working with. So just one real life example of how that preparation actually pays off at some point down the road.
And in that case, life and death, literally navigating a threatening hurricane and floods and
abandoned
tornadoes and South.
We had it all going on. Yeah.
The whole crazy thing. Yeah. So life imitates art. And if you had a piece of advice, if someone is sitting there trying right now to say, summer's almost over, I feel like there may be change upon us. Maybe I haven't done enough for myself because maybe I felt like my family comes first, but how important is it for them to really think about what they need as far as their own professional development? Are you supposed to sit and wait for your boss to hand that to you, or is it something you're supposed to really give yourself more grace and pay more attention to?
Yeah, I think my biggest piece of advice, and this is maybe a little cliche, but it's just start. If you're having those thoughts, have them legitimately, and then just find something you can do that can get you started down that path. And quickly you'll figure out what kind of help it is that you need. In my case, it was, I knew I needed someone from the outside who could come in and show me things about me that I didn't know. And that's, Pat, where you came in, right? And some people say, oh, why do you have a career coach? I'm like, well, I work in sports. Michael Jordan had a coach. LeBron James has a coach, right? Pele had a coach. Messi has a coach. Everybody has a coach to show them those things. And so why not me? Why not have one? The second thing that I would say is reach out to your network to see what they think about you and kind of mind them a little bit for the ways that you've helped them so that they can tell you a little about what they see your strengths as being, because that gives you opportunity to figure out where are the things that I should really focus on, or where are things that I think I'm good at that maybe I need a little more help at. And I think that kind of brings me to the third point is if you're at that step and you don't know who to reach out to, then you're in a position I was in where you really need to grow your network and, keep tabs on your network. And that would be number 3 is, in life, it's all about who you know and how you can help them first. And then second, hopefully they can help you as well. And that's something that I've done a ton over the past 6 months is try to expand that network. People that I've known that I've kind of let fall off, people that I'm trying to get introduced to newly, where I'm reaching out saying, hey, I know you might know this person. Can you connect us? And it's amazing how willing people are to do that and how much people actually do want to reconnect. I'll tell you a quick story. A woman that I went to college with, we worked in the athletics department together. We did a lot of baseball games. I hadn't talked to her in 15 years. And I heard a song that we always used to play pregame, Van Halen song. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to reach out to her. And I just sent her a note and I said, it's been way too long. I heard the song. It took me back to the baseball press box. We've got to catch up. And she, a couple weeks later was like, hey, I've been busy, but yes, let's absolutely do it. We caught up. We got to know where each other are personally, professionally. We're helping each other with some different things now. And, 15 years later, here we are. We hadn't talked. And now it's like no time has passed. So that's just one quick story about, do an audit. Think about who you might need to get in touch with, who you could help, who possibly might be able to help you down the road. And then just reach out genuinely and say, I want to rekindle our friendship and I want to see if there's anything I can do for you. And, those two, I think, questions will get people back engaged and boom, just like that. You have more friends in your industry. You have more people that you can talk to. And that's only better for everyone that's involved.
And it's fun.
And
And
it
it's
is fun, yeah.
easy.
After a while, you're like, I haven't reached out to anybody. I feel like I need to do that. And you just start doing it naturally. You don't even think about it. They're like, oh, that person, let's do it. So.
Good for you. I appreciate that. And so if anybody is interested in the world of sports marketing and sponsorship and content, Jordan is the man. So you can follow Jordan on LinkedIn. He's putting content out there, award-winning guy. Gotta love that. And if anybody is looking for the support that he just mentioned, we are kicking off a career accelerator. It's a 90-day leap. It's a program where you will learn the foundation of how to set your career GPS, what matters to you, what are your strengths, what are your non-negotiable priorities. Then we move into confidence and transferable skills that you just explained quite a bit, and go on from how do we set a 90-day plan? How do I work against goals? And how do I stay accountable, right? Because accountability was definitely part of the strategy. It's different when you've got somebody giving you a daily nudge than when you're just on your own flailing and then saying, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And then 6 months passes and then another year passes. And finally, how do you communicate, articulate your value, and then go out and connect with people like you just said. So we're doing that for 90 days in Career Accelerator. It's at the bottom of your screen, rockonsuccess.com/career X. And Jordan, I appreciate you. I admire you. I love watching you really shine. You've been doing a great job co-hosting and co-moderating on Clubhouse. That's a skill I don't think you remembered that you had until we kind of threw you in front of a microphone and said, go. And you're actually really, really good at it. So I encourage you to continue doing these lives, doing more Clubhouse. I think you belong in front of the camera as much as behind. I've told you that privately, but now I've said it out to the universe.
Now it's out there for everybody, right?
It is. But thank you so much. I appreciate your time. If anybody has questions for Jordan, you can leave them in the chat. And have a great weekend, everybody. Jordan, thank you so much. God bless, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks,
Ciao
Pat.
for now.
Appreciate the time.
You got it.